Sorry guys, my fire alarm went off for some reason in our house. My mom is cooking with a friend named Tim. The fire alarm went off because something was burning. I do not know what. And, if you guys didn't know this, I actually have a dog that we all call a puppy. And her name is Riley. Say hi, Riley. She's so cute. She loves getting scratches. Sometimes she's aggressive when she finds food, but she is most of the time very cute. She is basically skin and bones. She is very young still. Riley! And this is her. Riley, say hi. Riley. Riley, right on my lap. I was gonna put my Chromebook there. Guys, sorry about this. She loves getting scratches. Whenever she's shaking, that means she's scared, but sometimes she just shakes because she has realized that when we think she's scared, we give her attention to comfort her, so she just shakes and pretends to be scared sometimes. But the reason she's shaking right now is because she actually is scared. She is terrified of the fire alarm going off because don't know if she does or doesn't know. If she does, either way, she will be terrified because she doesn't like loud noises. And, if she does, she's probably scared that we're gonna die because of the fire. But it's okay, Riley. Okay, well, either way, we have to get back to the video. Okay, that was just a quick introduction of my puppy, Riley. And now, back to the video, I guess.
Entertainment chair in the middle of an observation room, placed in front of a television set. D643980 was also hooked up to standard medical equipment to measure his vitals, while the junior researchers scanned infrared, ultraviolet, and other frequency wavelengths of the television program for any anomalous activity. With this setup in place, lead researcher Monroe signaled for the test to begin. The television was switched on and began to play Tiki Taffy Town Season 1, Episode 3, the first on-screen appearance of Mr. Hister. As the episode began, everything proceeded normally, aside from a small increase in Hume levels. As it progressed, however, the D-Class became increasingly agitated, his heart rate and perspiration increasing. He demanded to know why the show was chosen, explaining that he had childhood memories of the program. His younger brother used to watch the show all the time, until he disappeared. Upon hearing this, Ethics Committee consultant Jennifer Lamb became visibly distressed, but advised the research team to proceed with the test in spite of this unforeseen emotional component. After the episode finished, D643980 was freed from his torso restraints and given a microphone, earpiece, receiver, and shoulder camera mount. He was then given a package of SCP-5853, at which point he remarked that he ate them as a child, but only ever ate the raspberry flavor, while his brother preferred the cherry. He was instructed to eat the cherry piece, then recite the phrase, "Flesh is not the truth." At this point, the theme song of Tiki Taffy Town filled the room, and the D-Class vanished from sight, disappearing from the observation room altogether.
What?
Dr. Monroe was able to maintain communication with D643980 via the microphone and receiver, and the research team monitored his video.
Oh my god, are you serious with me? Serious with me? Oh, wait, this isn't unskippable bad, so don't worry. Maybe we'll play after that.
With this crayon, whatever I draw comes to life.
Hold on a second. Don't you have to feed? The D-Class began in a dark place, with one single stream of light splitting the center field of view. After some resistance, he continued into the unknown, stumbling out of Mr. Squibble's treasure chest. Upon exiting the chest, the larger landscape could be seen, an exact replica of the Tiki Taffy Town set, with a blank white backdrop covering any areas not usually seen by the audience. As the members of the main cast, with the exception of Mr. Hister, entered the area, the D-Class hid in the chest. The four chattered excitedly about an upcoming town meeting before Mr. Squibbles opened the chest and discovered the D-Class hiding inside. He was instructed to engage with the entities until the Foundation could come up with an appropriate extraction plan. The D-Class became distressed and swore, prompting Mrs. Bobble to turn a glowing red until Mr. Squibbles calmed her down. Kizzy Wink asked the D-Class his name, and he answered that it was Davy. At this point, the entities instructed Davy to follow them to the town meeting, where he would be their esteemed guest. Together, they left the house, entering
what?
an area made up of the miniature town from the show's opening sequence, only grown to full scale. In the background was the same vacant white backdrop, as well as seemingly infinite copies of the same town landscape. Davy and the group followed a long road toward a cobblestone town square. As the research team watched the video feed, they could see that other pathways in the background were occupied by their own versions of the main cast of characters, all walking toward the same central location. These groups were accompanied, much to the horror of the research team, by small children. Each of the houses along the path was printed with a number corresponding to an episode of Tiki Taffy Town that featured Mr. Hister. According to the research team's calculations, this amounted to 31 episodes of the show that were actively able to steal children. Dr. Monroe suggested sending in a mobile task force, but Jennifer Lamb refused to sign off on the request, concerned about the unknown nature of the location and the potential ramifications of sending MTF members inside. While the research team was debating about the next steps, Davy and his new friends reached the town square. There were over 100 entities and 200 children gathered together there. Some children were weeping, others stood silently, eyes ringed with dark circles from lack of sleep. Every single one of them looked utterly terrified. The entities began to chant together, "I now arrive to the sea of sin, with the red of my flesh to offer him." A mirror-like rectangle appeared above the town square's fountain, spinning until it blurred into a black void. Then, Mr. Hister emerged from the darkness.
Oh God.
Mr. Hister addressed the crowd, calling out, "My children, it is time to tell Mr. Hister what lesson you learned today." He selected a young girl from the crowd and asked her to recite the lesson she learned. She answered, repeating a lesson from Mr. Scribbles concerning the importance of tying one's shoes. Mr. Hister replied, "Your prize is to pass through the mirror and into the dreamlands." He lifted the girl into the air and tossed her into the mirror behind him. She screamed and disappeared. He proceeded to call up child after child, asking them to repeat the lesson that they learned. When they answered, they were tossed into the mirror. If the child couldn't remember their lesson, however, well, the less that is said about that, the better. Before long, the fountain was filled with deep red water, which the other Tiki Taffy Town entities greedily slurped up. Eventually, Mr. Hister turned to Dave, asking him what lesson he learned. Dave struggled to answer, guessing a phrase that Mr. Scribbles said, "Don't make Mrs. Bobble upset, lest you fail his hideous test." This was the wrong answer. Mr. Hister lifted Dave into the sky, where he was suspended upside down alongside other humanoid figures, one of whom he recognized as his long-lost younger brother, Jeremy. At this point, Dave stopped responding to Dr. Monroe and his research team. The camera feed remained active for 3 days, suspended upside down next to Dave's body. On screen, a continuous stream of red liquid, presumed to be blood, could be seen flowing over the lens. The feed was cut short, and Dave was presumed lost. As harrowing as it was, this initial test provided the SCP Foundation with some vital information on the inner workings of SCP-5853-A. They were able to determine that, depending on the answer a stolen victim gives, they will be able to affect their own fate. If the victim answers Mr. Hister's question, "What did you learn today?" with the intended lesson imparted in the episode, they will be passed through the mirror. What awaits them beyond it, no one but Mr. Hister knows, but it is unlikely to be anything good. If the victim answers with a lesson they learned while inside of the extra-dimensional space, they will be left to hang upside down with Dave and the rest of those suspended in the air. If they don't remember, or lie about forgetting their lesson, they will be consumed by the entities. But there is one way out. If the victim answers by repeating or summarizing Mr. Hister's darker lesson from the episode, the victim will be released from the extra-dimensional space and transported back to the place they vanished from. For example, UIU Agent Mathis's son, Thomas, reappeared in the kitchen pantry of his home on January 8, 2000, after he did just that. Following the D-Class exploration of Tiki Taffy Town, Dr. Monroe reached out to Jennifer Lamb, requesting that she reconsider her decision to decline MTF operations in the area. She refused to change her mind, telling him to scan media spaces, recall the candy, and call it a day. With the ethics committee refusing to approve MTF action, Dr. Monroe instead reached out to his friend, Terrence Bazarian, who occupied an MTF Alpha position. He managed, via appealing to Terrence's role as a parent, to convince him to agree to an off-books, three-man mission into the spatial anomaly of SCP-5853-A. The small, unofficial mobile task force began its operation on January 20th, 2000. Frank Monroe served as commanding officer. Terrence Bazarian acted as team lead, Alpha, Robert Falk as right flank, Charlie, and Mohammed Al-Abi as left flank, Delta. Each member of the team was instructed to consume a piece of cherry-flavored Tiki Taffy and recite the phrase, "You may not believe in the slaughter, but the slaughter believes in you." Soon after, all three men were transported into the world of SCP-5853-A. They climbed out of the toy chest to find the cartoonish kitchen, the busily decorated living room, and the door to the outside area. The MTF team got to work investigating the area immediately, making note of the fact that all of the items in the house were fake, simply props for a children's show. The door to the set began to open, and the three MTF members hid out of sight. Monroe warned them to not, under any circumstances, engage with the entities in any way. The cast, with the exception of Mr. Hister, entered the room and began checking the area for signs of new children transported to the world. Alpha was discovered first and opened fire on Mr. Squibbles, who stumbled backward, leaking brown fluid until it collapsed. The remaining entities began to scream as the area dimmed to black. Suddenly, everything was dark and silent. The MTF feed switched to night vision as Delta, Charlie, and Alpha began to explore the area. Monroe ordered them to get to the town center as fast as possible and tell Mr. Hister the key phrase so that they could be transported back to the SCP Foundation site. As he delivered the instructions, his audio feed began to degrade until the MTF officers could no longer hear him. Left alone in Tiki Taffy Town, they had to proceed on their own. As the officers resumed motion, Fransipans flew at Charlie's head at top speed, its hammer beak colliding with the man's head and sending him careening into a nearby wall. The impact was fatal, and Agent Charlie collapsed to the ground, dead. Agents Alpha and Delta continued firing on Fransipans, and Alpha ordered Delta to head toward the door and make his way out. When he reached the door, however, Mr. Squibbles was waiting on the other side. It grabbed Agent Delta as an instance of Kizzywink used its claws to kill him. In a heroic dying act, Agent Delta pulled a pin from one of his incendiary grenades and charged at Mr. Squiggles, blowing them both up. Agent Alpha was the only one left standing, alone with Mrs. Bobble the clown. She charged at Alpha as he fired a grenade round that subdued her. Taking his moment, Alpha escaped the building, navigating his way through the pitch-black landscape. Alpha used his night vision view to navigate a narrow path toward a single light in the distance. He walked for approximately 182 minutes, at which point he remarked on the sensation of the path deepening, lengthening, and pulling him down. He began to approach the town square before everything faded to static. When Alpha's video feed returned, he was standing in front of a white wooden door. He reached out to open it and spotted a woman that appeared to be Jessie Bazarian, his wife, sitting in a rocking chair and humming a lullaby to the infant in her arms. He attempted to speak to her, but she addressed him in the manner of Mr. Hister, saying, "See the mirror, through the mirror. The mirror is the only salvation. Salvation achieved by sacrifice to he who is divine among the dreamlands. Release yourself through the mirror. Ascend through the mirror. Transcend through the mirror." Alpha screamed, collapsing to the ground. When he regained consciousness, he was face to face with Mr. Hister himself. The entity smugly asked, "Terrence, what did you learn today?" Rather than reciting the key phrase and attempting to return home, Alpha pulled the pin from his remaining grenade and let it fall to the ground. The video feed cut out, and the entire mobile task force that entered Tiki Taffy Town that day was presumed dead. 2 days later, Dr. Frank Monroe sent out the following email. "To whom it may concern and C. Miles, I regret to inform you that I am no longer able to fulfill my duties as researcher. I have come to the realization that Lamb was right, although I don't agree with her. I can't keep trying to save the world from the things we study. It's not about how far I can probe. It's for our own protection. I need to know when to call it quits." I could spend X number of dollars and X number of lives, sacrificing to whatever to wherever I think, or wherever I think the mirror may bring us, who Mr. Hister might be, or the implications of a clown entity called Bobble. I could try to chase these down to their penultimate conclusion, sacrificing MTF, D-Class, and innocence alike. Lamb, she was right. God, I'm sorry, Terrence. All SCP-5853 needs is to be hidden, in the dark. I'm sorry, I'm just not made for this. Not anymore. I can no longer do this. Let me forget. Let me go back. Consider this my resignation. Respectfully, Dr. Frank Monroe. After a review by the O5 Council, Dr. Monroe's resignation request was denied. All SCP-5853 products have been publicly recalled. Any instances of SCP-5853 are to be kept in a standard containment unit in Secure Facility 64, Wing F. If any instances of SCP-5853 are discovered being sold, the sale must be intercepted immediately. Every episode of SCP-5853-A has been removed from the air, and television broadcasts and online video sites must be scanned regularly in order to prevent further spread of the materials. No Foundation personnel, including D-Class, that have or are considered having children may be assigned to SCP-5853. The SCP Foundation has attempted to uncover the identities of production staff and actors from the show, but so far, the investigation has turned up nothing but dead leads. A close analysis of the show's credits showed that, rather than a list of staff that worked on the episode, they consist of a constantly growing list of names. These names include those of children reported missing, as well as individuals yet to be identified. On January 23, 2000, the names Robert Falk, Mohammed Al-Abi, Terrence Bazarian, and Frank Monroe were added. Frank Monroe was pronounced missing in action, and to this day, has never been found. Check out the Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior
First, that was terrifying. Secondly, I don't trust double flavored candies anymore. That are raspberry and cherry flavored. That's gonna be all for today because I'm terrified. At least for right now. I'm probably gonna take like a couple hour break, maybe for the rest of my life. I'm joking. Probably for a few days because that was terrifying. I'm no longer watching any cartoons. I'm only to YouTube. So guys, that's gonna be the end of the video. Check out Dr. Bob. Check out his videos. Say bye, Riley. Say bye.